Karibu tena, tunaendelea na mada yetu ya leo, mazungumzo yakiwa kuwahoji magavana wanaowania kiti cha ugavana katika kaunti ya Kajiado, tukimtaja Joseph Ole Lenku ambaye ni gavana hivi sasa, bunge wa Kajiado Kusini Katoo Ole Metito, vile vile alikuwa gavana wa kwanza kaunti hiyo David Nkedianye, na vile vile Ambrose Kago ambaye pia anawania kupitia tiketi ya huru ama mgombea huru. Karibuni tena.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's move on to youth and unemployment. Governor Ole Lenku, you mentioned how you've made quite a few of the TVET facilities now functioning in the county. And of course, that now dealing with the issue of training youth. You talked about them engaging in trades like plumbing and whatnot. But when you look at the larger unemployment issue in your county, how else do you seek to deal with it?
The issue of youth unemployment and the youth bulge is a big national concern, and is a problem because we can feel the frustrations of youth in our country and hence in our counties, and something needs to be done. In Kajiado County, in our small ways, as you know that our devolution is still at its formative stages. First of all, we made sure that we provide sufficient allocation, not sufficient, substantial allocation in our bursaries to make sure that youth are able to go to school. We inherited a bursary allocation of 40 million per year in the county, and we were able to move that to 150 million, including a provision for full scholarship, which was not there before. I spoke earlier on about our TVETs. Our endeavor to operationalize the TVETs and give the youth skills to be able to employ themselves is our endeavor to try and address that youth problem of unemployment and poverty, and try and get our youth out of the temptation to go into drugs, alcoholism, and problems as such. In our county, we made a major drive toward creating a conducive environment, and part of that was to address the issue of markets and places of trading. We were able to do that in all our major urban towns and centers, and in every provision for the same, women and youth, we gave them special consideration or special allocations. And so by giving these youth the skills, by providing substantial amount of bursaries and scholarship, by providing them trading spaces in terms of our marketplaces, and of course, a number of training. We also immediately came in past a youth policy. It was a point of contention before between the previous county and the youth, county government and the youth. And so by passing appropriate legislations and by creating those enabling environments, we continue in a small way to address the youth concern. But going forward, when the people of Kajiado give me the mandate to continue, we want to give that program more energy. In this term, we were only able to have 4,000 youth go through that program, and many of them have now employed themselves. We have now small businesses, as tailoring shops, plumbing shops, that were as a result of that Tujajiri program. We want to give that program a bigger push, a bigger allocation, because we have already tested it and it is working. And so now we are just going to roll it bigger and allocating more resources. Thank you.
Asante sana. Kwa kweli Mheshimiwa Ole Metito, na umekuwa mbunge kwa muda mrefu tu. Nguzo yenu kuu katika Kenya Kwanza hivi sasa ni kuinua uchumi. Na hususan ukiangalia hali ya vijana katika kaunti ya Kajiado, wengi hawana makazi. Kajiado inajivunia kuwa na vyuo vikuu vingi tu, na vile vile taasisi nyingine za mafunzo. Wanafunzi wengi wanaotoka kule wanakosa ajira. Zungumzia kitu gani ambacho wewe utafanya ikiwa utaingia serikali ya kaunti kama kiongozi, bali na kujitenga na serikali itakavyokuwa inazungumzia ama kujali maslahi ya vijana? Kama serikali ya kaunti utafanya nini?
Thank you very much. And first of all, I want to go it on record that the current national youth policy, which is being used both nationally and even at the counties, I was the one who moved it in Parliament when I was the Assistant Minister for Youth. So I fairly understand what is required to be done for our youth. As clearly you put it, for us to create employment, we have to grow the economy. We also have to, generate revenue that will actually ensure that our youth get to employment. And therefore, as you said it, Kenya Kwanza, that is because I'm the candidate for Kenya Kwanza, we are actually going to have what is called the Hustlers Fund, and this will mostly target the youth. I have said many times in public rallies in my county that I will set aside 20 million Kenya shillings per constituency annually, and that will go to Hustlers Fund, and the most targeted group is going to be the youth, whereby we will assist them. It is not money for, it's not a loan, because currently we have Youth Fund, WESO Fund, Women Fund, and the way it is being administered, though by the national government, is 20 million per constituency per year on each of the fund. That you have 60 million. But how is it being used? It is a loan. It depends on whether that group bring it back so that the other one gets. So with that 60, because we are going to abolish that, and then you add something, then you will get out, I'm saying, 20 million shillings per constituency annually. And that we will give to our youth to start businesses. And these businesses, they will now pay actually the taxes to the county. That is one way of doing it. The second one, if time allows, is actually nurturing their talents. Look at our stadium. We have 2 stadiums. These 2 governors, the first and the second, they both put a lot of money in Gong Stadium. It's never complete. Look at Kajiado Stadium. We were not able to host Madaraka Day because the stadium is not complete. It had to be taken to Narok the last minute. Therefore, I will complete those stadia, and then this will be used to nurture the youth talent. Every time I hear, even the sports, using sports, you hear what is called Governors Cup. But when you look at it, those leagues the youth are playing, they are not paid by the county. I don't know why it carries the name Governors Cup. So nurturing talent, grow the economy using Hustlers Fund for this youth to get jobs.
Asante, asante Mheshimiwa.
Thank you, Daktari. What would be your plan? Of course, you were the pioneer governor. You've just heard one of your competitors say that you failed to deliver on one of the major projects of the Ngong Stadium. But when you look at the youth, and we talked to some of them on the ground, and they said, we just want to be engaged, we want to work, we want to make a living. What do you tell them tonight?
Thank you. I think the worst you can do in looking at this problem is to look at it superficially. You know, we need to understand how things work so that we are not very theoretical. I actually did what Governor Lenku was talking about, TVETs, the vocational training centers. I actually went into that, and I can dare say that the Metito one was dead. I resurrected it. I employed an instructor, and it was up and running by the time I left. The one in Isinya, the same. The one in Namilok, the same. Ole Kasas in Kajiado North, the same. I started one in Saikeri, Kajiado West, and I started another one in Nguruman. Now, many of those are actually either operating at 30%, 50% at most, and some have not even taken off. Some of those instructors have left because they've not even been paid for a long time. And I think this is something that Governor Lenku needs to tell us, how he can find a vocational center moving on, and then he just allows it to die off. That is something that we need an explanation for. The other thing is, employment depends on different sectors in a government and in an economy. You don't just say, if you do this, then people will get employed. One, when I was there, I gave 30% youth tenders to the youth. Now, that is something. That is something to start with. I started the Youth Fund, the Disability Fund, and the Women Fund. Right now, they are not working. Now, where has the money gone? If you look at the money that is coming to the county, it was about 5 billion. It's 9.5 billion now, the budget. The money has almost doubled. Where is that money going? And I know some of those answers, because we know that when I left, the revenue collection was at about 800 million. Right now, it is at about 220 million. When Ole Lenku came, he was a bit serious. He put in a little effort. It went to slightly above 800. Right now, all the money is being siphoned. It's going into people's pockets, and that's why it's 220 million. It's a disaster, actually, what is happening. When you look at the stadium, I started that stadium. It's a huge project. You cannot complete in 1-2 years. And you know, we were doing the foundation of the county. And so, had I come in another term, I would have completed that stadium. For 5 years, Ole Lenku has watched that project. Even the pillars I left, have disappeared. Nothing has happened. Even the library that I left in Kajiado has not moved a single step because he decided to disown those projects. Now, that's not the way government works.
Asante sana.
Now, and the other thing, just as I finish, is that we need these funds to be operational. We need that fund to be working with the youth. And when Metito says it's not going to be a loan, what exactly is it going to be? It's going to be a soft amount of money given to this youth, but you must follow like it is a loan, so that you make sure they do what they are expected to do, and then you train them.
Asante. Naomba tuwe tunazingatia dakika mbili. Mheshimiwa Kago, nitakuja kwako, lakini ni Mheshimiwa Lenku, Mheshimiwa Nkedianye ametoa shutuma mbili muhimu. Moja kuhusiana na taasisi na nyingine kuhusu vizuri nikupe dakika moja uweze kujibu tu kwa kifupi.
Kwanza wacha tuseme wakati ya Daktari Nkedianye, kaunti ilikuwa inaokota ushuru wa milioni 350. Wakati yangu hiyo ushuru imeenda bilioni 1.2. Na ndio nilisema hapa awali tumeongeza pesa ya basari kutoka 40 to 150 million. Wakati huu mambo ya youth fund, pesa kwa mama na vijana imeongezeka maradufu kulingana na wakati sasa tuko, ukilinganisha na vile daktari alifanya hapo awali. Debate iliyokuwa nayo wiki 3 iliyopita, nilisema wakati wa daktari milioni 200 imelipwa kwa Ngong dam site, na kwa sababu ni mambo ya audit queries hatujaigusa kwa sababu pesa yote imelipwa na hakuna stadium. Na hiyo ndio shida iliyoko hapo Ngong. Yeye atueleze pesa ya Ngong dam site aliipeleka wapi. Lakini rekodi za serikali inaonyesha kwamba sehemu ya pesa kutoka county, the county revenue collection has more than tripled from the time of Daktari and now. And so to try and peddle falsehood to get sympathy and trivialize a very serious conversation as this is not right. And so since this document evidence to support this, we have actually moved substantially forward in terms of revenue. And that is why we are now getting more allocation from the national government than he was getting before, because he was not doing nothing about revenue collection. And that is the true siphoning. Siphoning funds is when he was there, because there were no new taxpayers in Kajiado. But to move revenue from 300 to 1.2 is something commendable.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Nafikiri pengine nije kwako wewe Bwana Kago na niulize hivi. Wakati wa ugatuzi ukianza, serikali ya kaunti ya Kajiado ilikuwa ikipata kama shilingi bilioni 5 hivi. Hivi sasa zimeongezeka mpaka nafikiri mwaka huu tukizungumzia shilingi bilioni 10, 11. Zipi ama kiwango gani utatenga katika kuhakikisha kwamba unasaidia vijana katika miradi ambayo italeta uchumi na fedha katika mifuko yao, kuzingatia vijana peke yake?
Asante sana. Kwanza mimi mwenyewe am an entrepreneurship in profession. Kwa hivyo nikiingia katika kaunti ya Kajiado, nitakuwa ninatenga around 20% of the money iweze kuingia kwa youth. Na hiyo itaweza kuwasaidia. And when you come to the youth, there is what we call the youth training. Youth should not only be given the money, but also be trained. Because sometimes you give them the money, you have not trained them. Then when you give them the money and you have not trained them, then there is a problem. Because what are they going to do with the money? So the training part is very important. That is the incubation. What we really need to do over the youth, we also need to give some confidence to the investors in the county of Kajiado. Because we have a big problem in county of Kajiado. Investors are coming in, but they have been chased away. Why? Because of land issues. This is an issue that should be very, very well be looked at. And when I will be the governor of Kajiado, I think we need to have that issue of land as an issue that should be really be looked at. Because I remember there was a time when the first government of the Nkedianye government, he closed the land board for 6 months. How do you expect the investors to come when the land office is closed for 6 months? You are not giving the investors confidence. This time, the Office of Land in Gong was closed for 6 months. How do you expect the investors to come? Now, Kajiado is not really developing. If you go to other areas like Kiambu, like Machakos, it's coming up. And that is where the youth would get employment when there is confidence for those investors. Again, the bureaucracy in construction is another problem in Kajiado County. Even somebody going for just a temporary building, the amount of money the person is really charged, and this money doesn't even go to the county. It goes to the pocket of people. I think we need to also to fight corruption so that we can also raise our youth to a certain standard. So really, I'm also saying that if I will be the governor of Kajiado County, we need to put some small industries. Because like even cows, they have hooves which can make, with the bones, which can also produce even the caps and other things. We have the skins. Those are the things we need to look at. We can even now produce our own electricity, especially in slaughterhouses.
Kwa mtazamo wako, hivi sasa kuna idadi ngapi ya vijana ambao hawana ajira, na katika siku 100 pengine utafanya nini? Kwa sekunde moja tu.
Naona kama kuna vijana karibu 1,500 hivi kama wenye hawana kazi. Na nikiingia ni kwanza I set a fund for those youth to see that they are given the fund.
Okay. Asante.
And give the confidence to the investors.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, gentlemen, let's take a short break. Mr. Nganga, you raised the very serious issue of land, which we'll come back to. Of course, Citizen Debates continues. After the break, keep the conversation going on social media. The hashtag Citizen Debates at Citizen TV Kenya. And of course, you can tag the both of us on Twitter with your questions. We'll be back with much more.